Good morning, Patriots.
Good morning.
Welcome to the 334th consecutive Friday meeting of the East Valley Red Friday Patriots. 81 of you decided to get your butts out of bed this morning and come join us. That's a pretty nice little crew. Just out of curiosity, I believe we may have a few winter visitors that have just recently returned. If so, will you please stand? If you're a winter visitor and just recently returned, hey, we're starting to get them back. Superb. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, recently I read about a supposed encounter between a reporter and a junior enlisted troop who was given permission to speak with the reporter. And the troop responded to a question from the local news reporter about the Department of War's ban on transgenders from joining the United States Armed Forces. The reporter asked, how can the President and the Secretary of War claim to represent all U.S. citizens, regardless of sexual orientation, when they ban transgenders from joining the military? Isn't that discrimination? Now, in my opinion, the troop's response was brilliant. He said, ma'am, nobody has a right to serve in the United States military. Nobody. What makes you people think that the military is an equal opportunity employer? It's very far from it, and for good reasons. Let me cite a few. He said, the military uses prejudice regularly and consistently to deny citizens from joining the armed forces for being too old, too young, too fat, too skinny, too tall, too short. Citizens are denied for having flat feet or for missing fingers or too many toes. By the way, poor eyesight will disqualify you as well as bad teeth. Are you malnourished? Do you have a drug addiction? Maybe a bad back or a criminal history? Do you have a low IQ, anxiety, phobias, hearing damage, 6 arms, hear voices in your head? How about self-identification as a unicorn? Do you need a special access ramp to mount your Humvee? Can't run the required physical fitness course in the required time? Can't do the required number of push-ups? Not really a morning person and refuse to get out of bed before noon? All can be legitimate reasons for denial. Ma'am, the military has one job: winning war. Anything else is a distraction and a liability. Oh, did someone just scream, "That isn't fair"? Well, war is very unfair. There are no exceptions made for being special or challenged or socially wonderful. You must change yourself to meet the military standards and not the other way around. I say again, ma'am, you don't change the military. You must change yourself. The military is not about being fair. It is about taking advantage of your enemy's weakness and about winning wars. The military doesn't need to accommodate anyone with special issues. The military needs to win wars and keep our country safe, period. If any of your personal issues are a liability that distracts from readiness, resilience, and lethality, well, thank you very much for applying and good luck in future endeavors. Are there any other questions, ma'am? I don't know about you, but I think that troop deserves a hoo-ah for that response. What say you? Thank you. Have any of you ever questioned the merit of military support organizations such as this Red Friday Patriots group? Maybe ask what impact do they really have on our beloved armed forces personnel, especially those that might be in harm's way? Well, let me put your mind at ease. You absolutely make a difference. You make a difference by demonstrating and proclaiming your support for these extraordinary men and women. Our service members find comfort in these expressions and demonstrations of support. They find comfort in knowing that you care about their well-being, their safety. You care about the success of their missions, that we care about the families they leave behind while deployed. Let's take a moment and listen to a Marine tribute titled "On My Watch Tonight" by Mike Corrado. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We do have a few guests that I would like to recognize this morning. Judy Woods. Judy, where are you? Judy, would you stand, please? Judy, how were you referred to this? How were you referred to this group?
Okay. I was referred to by my sister-in-law, Peggy, who has been coming to your meetings for quite a while now.
Yes, she has. And your first thoughts?
I will be back. And I have to get my husband to come.
And your husband is here?
No, he's not here today, but he was in the Navy, so.
We would love to have both of you to come and join us. Thank you very much for your presence today.
Thank you.
Also, Deb Zrinsky. Deb.
Hey, Deb.
Deb.
Let me hold that.
Deb, you are a United States Air Force retiree,
Yes, sir.
and you were a first shirt.
I was.
Tell me this, isn't that the best damn job you ever had in your life?
The best job ever.
There is no job
Love
like
taking
a
care of
first
the
shirt.
troops. Yep.
First sergeant is the best job forever and ever. Never, ever get tired of
That's
that
right.
position. So you served what years?
I was in from 80 to 87 in active duty, and then I went into the Air National Guard for 23 years.
So you've got 30 plus years.
Yes, sir.
30 plus years. Was
Yes,
the
sir.
Air National Guard service here in Arizona?
No, New Hampshire.
In New Hampshire?
Yeah.
What brought you to Arizona?
The heat. I didn't like that much heat this summer, but it was, I'm looking forward to the winter here.
We would very
That's what
much
I
like to have you come back and join us, so please do. Thank
I
you
sure
for
will.
being here today. I'm just curious
you.
about one thing, though. How did you learn about us?
Well, I actually joined this hall while last summer, I guess, and it was told to me that you guys had this going on, but I just had other things happen, and I didn't make it till recently when my friend Jean here had a flyer from you guys, and she said we should go check it out.
Thank you, Jean. Thank you, and we look forward to having you back here real soon.
All right, thank you.
And Jean Botwright, Jean is a United States Marine Corps veteran.
Hoorah!
She served 1954 to 1980.
I'm 91.
Military retiree from the United States Marine Corps. What type of job did you have there?
Well, I started out in communications. Then I went to the drill field. I was in the drill field for 2.5 years. Then I went to OCS and commissioned in '61. And then I was second lieutenants always they were called the shitty little jobs officer. So I started out as a command executive officer, but then I was a PX officer, and I was the inspection officer, and I was this officer and that officer. And then because of my communications background during the Cuban crisis, I went to crypto school, and I became a cryptographer. I didn't read a newspaper or watch a TV show for 2 years.
Wow.
Because you didn't know where you got your information. So then from there, I went into command. I had 2 commands, one in Hawaii, and then, excuse me, and then I went to Quantico. I was an instructor in OCS and basic school, NCO leadership school. And then I went to the WAC school in Fort McClellan, Alabama to be a command staff officer. But I was transferred en route because somebody was kicked out of a job, and I was the only woman captain on orders at the time, so I went to headquarters Marine Corps as a commanding officer of the women's unit. And,
you have had some broad experience in the United States.
I
no
have.
pun intended, not broad experience, but broad experience.
You know, you bring up something there, Dick, that I have to tell you about. You know, I'll give everybody a laugh. They used to say they called us BAMs, broad-ass Marines, and I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'd rather be broad-assed than half-assed.
Gene, thank you for joining us today. We hope you return. May I see the hands of Marines in here so Gene can see what we've got? Look back here, Gene. We've got a few Marines here, and I'll guarantee you in the next couple of months we're going to have a bunch more in here. How about Jay Holt? Jay, where are you? Jay, where are you?
Right here.
Jay and Nancy, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys live over there in my neck of the woods at Los Palmas Grand, is that right?
Yes.
So how did you guys learn about our Red Friday program?
Other people in the park come here.
From LPG? Referred you?
Yes.
Yes.
So, Jay, you guys are winter visitors as well? Is that correct?
What?
You just here during the winter?
Are you full-time or are you winter visitors?
Well, we live here full-time, but we're not here all the time.
You're retired then, I assume.
Yeah, we travel quite a bit.
Nancy, Jay, thank you for joining us today. Glad to have you with us. And then Joe Thornell has been occupying a seat here for a little while, and today I believe that he brought his wife, Carrie. Is that right? Carrie, where are you? Carrie?
Yes.
You've been putting up with Joe for a while, eh?
Yeah.
And you guys are from South Dakota?
Yes, we are.
And you are winter visitors here, is correct? Is that right?
Yes, we are.
Do you object to be called a winter visitor?
No,
I mean,
that's what we are.
but you're not. I mean, you're a property owner here, and I'm just curious if there is another term that can be used other than a winter visitor.
Not really. I don't like snowbirds. I'll take winter visitor.
I don't either. But if you come up with a name for a winter visitor that might be more appropriate, will you let me know?
I will let you know, yes.
Thanks, Carrie, for
Yes.
joining us. Can I have a hoo-ah for our visitors?
Winter resident works better than winter visitor, doesn't it?
Also, I do want to make note that that Ted Gremmel, our constable here at Pinal County, he was here last week, joined us again today. Glad to have you. Raise your hand back there, Ted. Glad to have you back with us. You know, so here a few months back, my granddaughter, Jasmine, and her husband, Junior, came visiting with us. And one afternoon, Jasmine and I slipped out on the back patio, and we were sipping on some iced tea and eating a slice of pecan pie with a scoop of Bluebell ice cream, just doing a little chit-chatting. Well, Jasmine has always been a rather inquisitive woman. And she said, "Pop, do you mind me asking you a few questions?" I said, "Not at all, sweet pea. What you got?" So then Jasmine asked me, she said, "Pop, if you had a rewind button, what do you regret most in life?" I said, "Honey bun, I deeply regret not listening to my daddy." Jasmine said, "And what did your daddy used to say?" I said, "Hell if I know, I didn't listen to him." She said, "Well, in your opinion, Pop, what's the secret to making life work out?" I said, "Don't tell nobody nothing." She said, "And has it helped?" I said, "Not really, but at least nobody knows my life's all going to hell." Jasmine said, "Well, Pop, tell me, do you have any advice for young people like me?" I said, "You know, my best advice is not to give advice. But since you ask, I'll tell you that I was once young, handsome, and real poor. And after years of study, hard work, and dedication, I stopped being young and handsome." She said, "So, Pop, what's your biggest dream?" I said, "For a long time now, I've dreamed about winning $50 million in the lottery, just like my brother Rass." Jasmine said, "Really? Did Uncle Rass win that much?" I said, "Nah, but that was his dream too." Then she said, "Pop, I'm curious. Do you think priests should be allowed to marry?" I said, "Absolutely." She said, "Why is that?" I said, "So they can finally see what hell really looks like." Then Jasmine took a poke at me and she said, "Pop, you know, that pie you're eating ain't exactly healthy, don't you?" I said, "Well, my granddaddy lived to be 104 years old." She said, "Really, eating pie?" I said, "No, minding his own damn business." Well, about that time, Junior came out of hiding and he chimed in and said, "Hey, Pop, that pie looks delicious. Do you have an extra slice?" I said, "Junior, do you like day-old pie?" Junior said, "Sure do." I said, "Well, then swing by tomorrow." Well, about that time, Jasmine excused herself and headed back into the house. And once she had left, Junior leaned over towards me and he said, "Pop, I hate to tell you this, but I'm going to get a divorce." He said, "It's been near 3 months and Jasmine ain't said diddly to me." I said, "Junior, I'm really sorry to hear that, but are you sure you want to leave?" I said, "A woman like that's hard to find." Ain't it great to know you're influencing young, inquisitive minds? Had a couple of topics I wanted to visit with you today, and they're about as far apart as the North and South Pole. But they're interesting topics, I do believe. This morning, I wanted to share with you a little story about a quite hot topic today within our armed forces. Is about Drones, unmanned aerial vehicles, which are an aircraft with no human pilot, crew, or passengers on board. Now, I've spoken to you previously about drones and their numerous applications within the armed forces, but I think you'll find the story I'm about to tell quite interesting. As we look back over the past century, we'll discover that there is no single inventor that can be credited with the development of the drone, because its development is really a history of cumulative innovation by multiple individuals and nations. But during the past few years, we've seen and heard much about drones, to include the military's applications for their use around the world. And with the rapid advancement of the drone technologies, they're now launched by ground, air, and sea by many armed forces, and they're fully capable of carrying out missions that would have been considered fantasy only a couple of decades ago, or so we thought. Let's rewind to June 13, 1944, during the height of World War II, when a strange new aircraft appeared over England's skies. England's Royal Air Force was accustomed to scrambling to intercept German fighter and bomber aircraft from mainland Europe. But this new aircraft threat was different. It was unmanned. Onlookers described it as a pilotless plane. It had wings, it had a jet engine, and a warhead that delivered a very, very significant explosive damage on impact. This engine cut out in midair shortly before it fell on its intended target, and it was self-guided. Sound familiar? This was the FI-103, better known as the V-1 flying bomb, and is often referred to as the first cruise missile. But the V-1 could more accurately be described in today's nomenclature as an unmanned aerial vehicle. You know, it's interesting to note that Germany's V-1 flying bomb project actually started out as a manned suicide drone, picking up on what the Axis powers were doing with the Japanese suicide dive bombers. These were a bunch of German volunteers that stepped up to man these instruments of death, and manned flying bomb project was plagued with failure after failure after failure. It was ultimately abandoned, and then it was brought back to life as an unmanned vehicle. Well, like today's UAVs, the V-1 was cheap to manufacture, simple to assemble. Its affordability, as well as the damage and terror that it could inflict, are exactly why the Third Reich chose to invest in its production as the war continued to drag on. And Germany's manpower shortages, their strained economy that was crumbling under the cost of war, and a significant decline in morale among the German civilian population was having an effect on weakening Germany's capacity to sustain its war effort. Adolf Hitler and his despicable thugs hoped that the V-1 would prove to be a literal miracle weapon, a weapon that would turn the tables on the Allies and result in a quick victory. In fact, the V-1 was quite sophisticated for its time. It was pre-programmed to find its target and could self-correct its course. It had an advanced pilot control system that was set before the vehicle was launched, and it was used to program the vehicle's design range, its altitude, and even the wind conditions that it might have to adapt to. The V1 could adjust its own course in midair using a built-in barometric altimeter, a gyroscope. And to help it reach its target, it had a rangefinder that was powered by the V1's propeller. Quite genius for the time. Now, regarding its payload, the V1 was equipped with an 1,800-pound warhead, and it traveled at a rate of up to 400 miles per hour. It was nicknamed the Buzz Bomb because it was infamous for making a buzzing noise which then went deathly silent before impact. It took between 15 to 30 minutes to strike a target, and one blast could level buildings and kill hundreds of people. Now, in addition to being unmanned, the V1 had other similarities to today's UAVs. It could be launched from an angled ramp, and as is often the case in modern drone warfare, it could be dropped in swarms. Also, like many of today's drones, the V1s could be launched from other aircraft in flight, and in fact, there were hundreds of V1s that successfully launched from German bombers during the war. Hitler hoped the use of these cheap but destructive unmanned aircraft would ultimately erode the enemy's will to fight and keep Germany in the war indefinitely. Now, towards the end of the war, as Germany's production of their last-ditch miracle weapons became essential to the Nazi war effort, they forced concentration camp inmates and POWs to churn out V1s in an underground forced labor camp near Nordhausen, Germany. Many of those prisoners died during that harsh ordeal, and they are now memorialized at a museum and memorial site in the same location where that activity was taking place during World War II. Had the production of V1s been directed to a civilian-ran enterprise, it would have taken about 280 man-hours total to assemble a single V1 under normal working conditions. That's only 1 week in normal working conditions. But due to the brutal, round-the-clock slave labor in the concentration camp that was overseen by the SS, the Nazi Party's paramilitary organization, the V1s were rolling out at an absolute alarming rate. About 30,000 total V1s were built within a relatively short period of time before the end of the war. And by the end of March 1945, 6 weeks prior to Germany's surrender, more than 10,000 V1s had been fired at London alone, and others targeted the city of Rotterdam in the Netherlands and the cities of Antwerp and Lee in Belgium. Those self-piloted bombs resulted in heavy casualties and left swaths of destruction. In a single night, beginning on the evening of June 15 and ending prior to dawn on June 16, 1944, over 200 V1s were launched at locations in England from a combined total of 96 different V-1 launch sites across Nazi-occupied Europe. More than 70 of those V-1s struck London, and an estimated 53 reached the cities of Portsmouth and Southampton, England. Now, looking back on that era, the V-1s were cost-effective, they were powerful, they inflicted terrifying damage. However, they ultimately failed to deliver a final victory for Hitler. And perhaps, just perhaps, the most important factor was that the gruesome strikes against civilians deepened their resolve of the Allied nations to result in the Third Reich's war aims. This sentiment was eloquently expressed in a speech that British Prime Minister Winston Churchill gave on July 14, 1941, in the aftermath of previous Luftwaffe bombing onslaughts. Churchill said this: "We ask no favors of the enemy. We seek from them no compunction. You have committed every crime under the sun. We will have no truce or parley with you, or the grisly gang who work your wicked will. You do your worst, and we will do our best." Well said, Prime Minister. So, even though the V-1 was promoted to the German people as an affordable, powerful, unmanned solution to winning the war, the V-1 failed to achieve that objective, even despite being countered by the Allies' unsophisticated counter-UAV technology. Fast forward to today, and we see how the UAV technology has evolved for our armed forces. They're used for intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance, combat and attack, logistics and support, and numerous other applications that we might not have given any thought to. Other apps include training exercises, tactical communication links, disaster management, naval port and facility inspections, much less humanitarian support missions. So, folks, that's a condensed summary of the UAV history, the V-1 flying bomb, and modern military applications for drone technologies. And just think of the countless applications yet to be discovered for the commercial and industrial complex for drones. Who would have thunk? So, this morning, I want to share with you a brief story about a rather unusual topic as it pertains to our armed forces, a topic that some of you might find rather surprising. That said, may I see the hands of those of you who do a little baking of culinary delights every now and then, you know, cookies, pies, cakes, raise them up high. Quite a few of you. Okay. How about you self-proclaimed bakers who occasionally use powdered sugar, commonly known as confectioner's sugar, as an ingredient in your scrumptious concoctions? Please raise your hand. Well, both you and those who are fortunate to consume your confections may want to listen up. You know, commercial variants of powdered sugar were introduced during the 1800s. And as technology improved for the grinding and the sifting of sugar, factory-made versions of powdered sugar became widely available. So Powdered sugar has been around for a while as both a commercial and a consumer product. That said, I must ask, are you folks aware that those pies, cakes, and pastries that you so diligently slave over in your kitchens may contain that little known but key ingredient in the chemical reaction that ignites military smoke grenades? That being powdered sugar. Powdered sugar. And I might encourage you to hang on to those jars, cartons, and bags of powdered sugar hidden away in the bowels of your pantry, because they may be more valuable than you might think. You see, the United States Army is looking to buy 65,000 pounds of powdered sugar to use in the manufacture of hand-thrown smoke grenades. That's 32.5 tons of powdered sugar for smoke grenades. 32.5 tons is equivalent to 325 grown men weighing 200 pounds each. Now here's the skinny. A recent Army contracting notice went out from a major weapons arsenal that produces battlefield-ready incendiary munitions. That notice went out to prospective suppliers of powdered sugar. And the contract was filed by an Arkansas arsenal that builds munitions for all U.S. military branches. It turns out that the sweet powdery sugar, the same you might find in funnel cake at a state fair, is a major ingredient to make things go boom, or at least hiss and spray. Now that sugar is in support of the M18 and the M83 hand-thrown grenade program and the M8, which is a larger and heavier canister commonly known as the smoke pot, all of which are used across all U.S. military branches. Now, the main difference is that the M18 is a colored smoke grenade available in various colors like green, yellow, red, or purple, while the M83 is a larger, or its larger M8 canister are both white smoke only. So burn time from these hand-thrown M18 and M83 grenades is about 1.5 minutes, while the larger M8 pots burn up to 5 minutes. And the pots are also available in a floating version for the Navy. So for you bakers who might be wondering, this contract allows for 6X, 10X, or 12X varieties. This is a grading system that defines the fineness of the grind, with the higher numbers indicating a much finer powder. But the contract prefers that the sugar be delivered in 50-pound bags. So you guys may need to pool your pantry stash, place an order for a few of those old-fashioned flour bags if you want to get on this bidding process. Now, although powdered sugar's use in the industrial weapons making may not seem logical, the chemistry is fairly simple. You see, explosives need 3 primary ingredients. They need an oxidizer, they need an ignition source, and they need fuel. And sugar is an excellent fuel, not only for our body, but as a propellant due to its high energy content and stability when it is combined with an oxidizer. Now, it's interesting to note that the Army's use of sugar in grenades goes back at least 2 decades. According to a 2007 release from a New Jersey arsenal, Army scientists turned to sugar as a substitute sulfur-based fuel as a way to make smoke grenades safer for the troops and safer for the surrounding environment. So I guess you could say that the Army was on board with the green movement at the time and still are. So you might think, just how many smoke grenades could be manufactured from 65,000 pounds of powdered sugar? Well, I can't accurately answer that question because the composition of these military smoke grenades is considered sensitive and classified. But the answer might be a whole bunch. When you consider that the overall weight of an M18 grenade is about 16 ounces, 1 pound, and approximately 11.5 ounces of those 16 ounces is fill weight, which includes some powdered sugar. Therefore, if you assumed that a mere 3 ounces of the 11.5 ounces of filler might be powdered sugar, then 1 pound of sugar would make 5 smoke grenades. 5 smoke grenades per pound of sugar times 65,000 pounds equals 325,000 smoke grenades. Now, according to federal contract documents, the sugar would be used for M18 grenades, which are used for training purposes, and some M83 grenades that are used predominantly for operations, and also the larger M8 smoke pots. And if you're wondering, 2 of the more common applications for smoke involve ground forces using smoke grenades and smoke pots to create a smoke screen for concealment by obscuring their forces as they move, or they might be used for ground-to-air signaling to mark a landing zone for, as an example, a helicopter. The chemical reaction will produce a whole bunch of heat, which lights the grenade and then releases the smoke signature based on the particular model of grenade. It could have a variety of colors. As an example, in Desert Storm, before units launched the attack and crossed the sand berm, units had positioned virtually all of their smoke pots to conceal movement from the Iraqis. And as we're well aware, it worked exceptionally well. Now, compared to the small 1-pound smoke grenades, strategically positioned smoke pots, which may weigh up to 38 pounds each, can cover the movement of a company, a battalion, even a brigade occupying a much, much larger area. And M8 smoke pots in particular can generate smoke screens for nearly 5 minutes. So I want to give you a word of caution. That French toast that many of you scarfed down this morning for breakfast, you might consider walking rather gingerly when you exit the building. And the next time you happen to consume one of those potentially scrumptious sweet treats, and soon thereafter your stomach starts to growl, then you start making a strange hissing sound, and then you suddenly become bloated, I implore you, rush to an unoccupied room, lie face down, stomach to the floor, and ensure that you do not place others in harm's way, because unbeknownst to you, you may have become a walking M8 smoke pot. I'm just saying, we may want to rethink offering up donuts on First Fridays. Minimize the risk. Oh, goodness. I do have a few announcements I would like to make today. As you are aware, our Red Friday group is registered to participate in the upcoming All-American Veterans Day Parade, scheduled for Veterans Day, Tuesday morning, November 11, in Apache Junction. And we need volunteers to join us for the event, both walkers for the short parade route and those who cannot walk the route. We do have 2 vehicles that will be in the parade that you're more than happy to ride in. We have a sign-up sheet for those that are wishing to volunteer, and my wife, Hank, will be seated right there where she is right now following the meeting. If you would, please give her your name and your phone number, and I'll be sending out details about our staging for that. Another reminder, we have numerous guest speakers scheduled for the remainder of this year, so please plan to attend and support them. We've got speakers scheduled for next Friday, October 31, November 7, November 14, November 21, December 5, and December 19. And we have other speakers being pursued for some of the other open dates for this year and for the first quarter of next year. Speaking of upcoming assemblies, please mark mid-November date as a must-attend, Friday, November 14th. On that day, both our Red Friday group and the Daughters of the American Revolution group will sponsor a 250th birthday celebration for Army, Marines, and Navy. We plan to have guest speakers. We'll have a cake cutting ceremony for each branch. We'll have a lot of decorations, even tablecloths that will be going on these tables, something you will rarely see at a Red Friday assembly. We've printed tickets for the event, which will allow us to lock in on the number of attendees to expect. And Hank will have those tickets as you exit today if you've not already picked them up. Now, please understand, only get these tickets if you are almost virtually positive you're going to be here, because the whole intent of the ticket is just so we can determine the exact number of attendees that we will have in preparing our hall and preparing the breakfast meal. Do you remember Dennis Gardner, who addressed us last week, U.S. Navy retiree? He sent me last night. He sent me this. It is an announcement for a meet and greet breakfast, USS Arizona, SSN 803 Naval Crew, Thursday, November 13, 8 to 9:30, American Legion Post 41 in Phoenix. They're having a get-together. He said, please, if anybody has an interest in attending this, they're welcome to do so. Dennis said that he's going to be there for it. He'd like to see some red shirts there as well. Karen, Confederate, has a brief announcement. Jim, would you give her your microphone, please?
Thank you. Well, good morning. On behalf of our Apache Trail Chapter DAR, I just want to give a big thank you to the Red Friday group for signing up with our fundraiser, which is the 100X. We've had 12 signups, which doesn't seem like a lot, but the 12 people who have signed up has raised $910 for our chapter. Extraordinary. So we are so grateful. As we still have about a week and a half. The campaign runs until November 4th, and for every 25 surveys, So this includes those who have already signed up and completed 25, 50, 75 surveys. There is a ticket with your name on it that's going in a hat, and for the grand prize drawing of a gift basket that comes from Palladino's, and it is packed with really cool food, and there's a bottle of wine and a wine glass, so you can have a party all by yourself. So for every 25 surveys, you will have a ticket entered into the grand drawing, and if you have 75 surveys completed by the end of the campaign, then you get an extra 2 tickets into the grand drawing. And so far, there's about 10 people who would be eligible for at least 1 ticket at this point, and several of you have already completed 75 surveys, which is the max. So thank you very, very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Karen. If you hadn't got on board with that, I encourage you to do so. That 100X survey is so simple, and for every survey you complete, which takes 60 seconds to complete a survey on businesses that you drop in on every day, from banking to restaurants to cleaners to you name it, the DAR earns $1.60 for you investing 60 seconds in a survey. Karen can provide you with the details of that if you would like to get on board with it, and I believe that early November, may be November the 4th, we'd like to be able to at least break that $1,000 barrier.
We need 90 more.
Oh, Sarah, I'm sorry. You had an announcement?
No. We had a donation of $841 in addition to all the packages that you provided. I can't thank you enough. I get teary when I talk about this because it's so dear to my heart, for helping us out. Obviously, we're not going to be able to mail $841 worth of goodies overseas. So what we're doing, we'll have probably about 15 to 20 boxes that we will be mailing. And then we're going to have 1 box that's specifically for the women. And then also the rest of the money we're going to divide between providing support for the National Guard for some of their weekends, maybe water, goodies, and so forth like that, and the USO at the airport. So your money is going to be used for military and deployed military no matter what. And I want to thank you so much for everything that you did for us.
Thank you. I do have a couple of remaining announcements here, and one has to do with the update on the Red Friday logo shirts. Due to Barry McDonald's diligence in reviewing prospective printers for our Red Friday shirts, I believe that we have now identified a preferred supplier for printing services. And as a result of that, Barry has had several visitations with that particular company. He feels comfortable that this company will be able to provide a quality product and a reasonably fast turnaround at a competitive price. Now, Barry just told me out front he did not care for my order form whatsoever. So Barry has designed a much simpler order form, a really simple order form, and I will have to applaud him for this and explain to you that I apologize for having all of the detail on the previous one when it could have been simplified. So easy. But anyhow, here's the skinny. On polo shirts, the custom polo shirts are a couple of dollars less than the previous quote that you had been given. The T-shirts and the crew necks and the V-necks are a couple of dollars more. So here's what we are suggesting. If you've already completed an order on my order form, turn it in with your money, check or cash. We'll process it. If you haven't yet turned it in, or if you would really like to make it easy on us, take a new order form and complete that. But if we get your old order form, Barry and I will convert it to the new order form to make it simple for the printer as well. And we hope to start the submission of these orders sometime beginning the latter part of this week. So between now and next Friday, turn in your orders. If you do not have an order form, pick up one. I'll have them up here. If you have already completed one on the old order form, I'll take it. We'll convert it ourselves. This will be the print that is available on the back of the shirt. And initially, we are taking orders for red shirts only. Later in the year, late fall, we'll probably be open for taking orders on other colored shirts like white or blue shirts. But right now, it is red, short sleeve only. This is the logo for the back of the shirt. And then the logo for the front of the shirt is a 3-inch logo that will go over the left breast of the shirt. So you can either get back only, front only, or both back and front. If you would, please, prior to your leaving the building, if you'll drop off your name badges back there at the greeting desk, we would appreciate it. To our guests, thank you for joining us today. We sincerely hope that you will return to share in our camaraderie, support our mission of Red Friday, and please know that you will always be welcome at our Red Friday assemblies. And as a final reminder, let's not overlook the importance of our Red Friday mission to keep our deployed warfighters in our thoughts and prayers, and to continue to demonstrate our support for these fine men and women. Enjoy your weekend.